Hello and welcome to Bloke on the Range. We've actually managed to get both of us occupying the same space-time for once.
Whee!
So we are doing a patron Q&A today, and apologies that it has taken a little while. Publicised this on the 18th of November and we're filming on the 23rd of December. It's taken that long, sorry. Anyway, so in order, there's 30 odd. First of all, Eric says, I've heard tale of K31 tuning, which involves adjusting tension on different screws. Does that actually work, and what does it accomplish if it does?
The tales are true.
Does it make a difference? Maybe. Depends on your rifle. And what's it accomplish? It will tighten the groups. Basically, if you've watched the video I did for TFB where I explain the muzzle pressure issue, and in fact I did one on Bloke on the Range as well, where I explained actually how it works. The K31 is similar, but not quite the same. What the K31 bedding is basically is you've got 3 points of contact, and the points you've got two on the receiver, front of the receiver, back of the receiver, and then there's a muzzle bearing, like on a number 4, except instead of being a massive up pressure muzzle bearing, it's a moderate up pressure, and then it's held tight with a well-fitted handguard, and it's sort of clamped around like that. I'm going to go into this in much greater detail when I get onto the K31 with the straight pull series, but suffice to say that by playing with the screw tension you can affect the muzzle pressure and you can find a sweet spot sometimes, and it might work with your rifle, it might not. That it. Stephen asks, will the Chap come on the 8th? Can we eat powder? Well, the 8th has been and gone and he couldn't make it. At some point there'll be video from that day, but I've got quite a backlog to work through. And can we eat powder? As in, will it kill you? Nah.
I think he's referring to black powder, which was a well-known medicinal substitute back in the day, so you could.
Well, with everything, the poison's in the dose.
Absolutely.
Right. James asks, what's the deal with the P14? Why didn't it replace the SMLE? Effectively, the deal with it was that it was an emergency reserve arm, more suited for mass production than the SMLE Mark III, as it was at the era. It was a design they had the technical package for the P13 in 276 Enfield caliber, which is a ridiculously overpowered thing. When the war broke out, they needed rifles. It was easier to send this design over to Winchester and Remington in the US than the SMLE design, which has more parts and it's an older design. So after the war they had almost equal amounts of P14s and SMLEs on hand. They could in principle have gone either way. Massive non-interchangeability issues with the P14s because they were made in a hurry and the individual manufacturers were doing different things, amending their own technical packages and so on. But they considered that the war had validated the SMLE concept, particularly the 10 round magazine. I think the big issue, and I've been doing some work with the P14 behind the scenes that I haven't yet had a chance to edit and publish. It's slightly slower than the SMLE with a 15 round a minute doctrine. It's not actually working the bolt doesn't make an awful lot of difference. It's fractions of a second, but the reload sucks. I mean, really, there's something in the geometry with the chargers. With the SMLE and later number 4, they seem to go in a lot more easily. And I was using exactly the same chargers with my Mad Minute with the number 4 and the Mad Minute with the P14. What killed the P14 was the reload was horrible. And I think possibly with the Mauser type magazine, which isn't, it works. But this is just something to do with the way the rounds are supported and push up on the others or something. There's something in it that meant that the reloads were absolutely sucky. I mean, they were taking twice as long. So post-war there were a couple of random prototypes of sort of upgrades based on P14 actions, but in the end they said, okay, well, no, we're going to continue developing the SMLE. So we have the number 1 Mark 5, number 1 Mark 6, which became the number 4, and then that design was put aside, saying that if there's a war in Europe, that's what we'll make. More on the P14 to come. You want to read the next one?
Alright, Giulio says, what is your opinion on aftermarket products for the K31, 11, etc. by Swiss Products? Would I like the compensators, diopters, optics, rings for my future K31, but are they a sensible choice?
You don't have many choices, to be honest.
No.
The only Swiss products that I've come across that I've personally had in my hands is the clamp-on front sight tunnel, which is excellent. I personally don't use that one on mine because I've got a K tunnel, and I kind of like the smaller tunnel. Certainly with the post, I think it frames the target a bit better. But I have one. I've used it in projects. I had it on my 9611 for a while actually, and yeah, it's great. I mean, you don't have a lot of choice, but Swiss products make very, very good products from what we've seen.
The trouble here is that we don't see that many of them here because in some cases you can buy an entirely kitted out rifle for the price of adapter.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, yeah, my first K31 cost me 450 francs with a diopter on it, with a W&F K diopter. So yeah.
But certainly there's nothing wrong with the Swiss products. They look great.
Things like, I mean, compensators and optics rings and things, there's no interest here because you're not allowed to use them in competition, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
With me, I'm either shooting it raw, naked, or with a diopter set up for Swiss type competition.
Yeah, the naked footage will come later.
You wish. Right. Julian asks, your many videos on the Lee-Enfield have encouraged me to try and get one in the near future, jumping through the appropriate hoops permitting. Is there a specific model or manufacturer you would recommend for someone new to shooting one of these, as there are so many variants? And am I better off buying a cheaper one to see if I like it, or spending more on getting a really good one? Well, I think certainly in my shooting career the prices have gone up quite a lot anyway. To be fair, buy the one that's in the best condition that you can afford. Make sure it's stocked up correctly. See the TFP video on that. But effectively, if the barrel's in good condition, the stocking up's in good condition, it should be alright. Buy number 4 rather than SMLE, because if you're starting out, diopter sights or aperture rear sight is so much easier. And yeah, number 4, as good condition as you can, stocked up correctly. Check that there's decent muzzle pressure, because if it's floating, and if anyone's bubbered it, if anyone proudly says, oh, I set the barrel back to tighten up the headspace, they've actually screwed the bedding up. So don't touch that. Run a mile if anyone says that they've improved it in any way.
Right. This is from Christian. Are there any guns that people in the US would consider rare and expensive that are pretty common and cheap for you to get in Switzerland? Well, there's one particular one that sticks out, and that's the Stgw 57, which in the US apparently is exceedingly rare and worth several children. Whereas here, you're getting a pretty good one for $400. Private deals, you can get much lower than that. So yeah, they can't get rid of them fast enough.
Mm-hmm. Effectively, you've got the generation that were issued them and kept them at the end of their service. They're starting to get very old and retire or pass on. So yeah, and they can't sell them outside of Switzerland really because they're downconversions from full auto. The ones that were built as semi-autos are actually kind of expensive still.
Yeah, they're was it 57/03? I think is the designation.
No, PE 57.
Yeah, but there's an 03 as well, which is a slightly tuned version.
They're expensive, but that's because of the little bits you hang on. I mean, you take a $400 rifle and hang $4,000 worth of bits on it. to shoot in competition. But there's some video coming on that as well, all filmed but not yet edited. Maybe I'll get onto that this weekend. There's other stuff that we can get is not cheap, but we can get, actually, yeah. Norinco M14s and similar are about $800. We can get them. The Norinco Dragunovs are about $1,800. But yeah, because there's no import ban on Chinese arms here, so we can get that. And then we have Swiss bog standard Swiss straight pulls are cheap as chips here, and or cheap as free. I've got several that I didn't pay anything for. It was great. Oops. Okay, Hartley asks, we often see you shooting in different countries other than Switzerland, and you've lived all over Europe. How complicated is it to stay legal when transporting guns and ammo from one country to another? I know there are no border checks, but from a legal perspective. As a general rule, I've been very surprised by what I've seen legally earned in continental Europe. The answer is, thus far when I've shot in other countries and filmed it, I've been shooting the guns of people who are there already. You can apply for what's called a European firearms pass, also called a firearms passport for some reason. And that plus an invitation, so you justify your visit, that is enough for most countries. The UK is different. The UK you have to apply for a visitor's permit in each case. In fact, you can't apply for it, your host applies for it, so there's a bit more of a paper chase. You have to provide your European firearms pass to do this paper chase, but that's how it works. So if I were to go to Italy to visit Spam again and take some of my guns, I have to get a written signed invitation from the range owner or the organizer of the event, not necessarily the range owner. You can't just randomly travel across international borders with guns. You have to have the right paperwork and you have to justify it. And then depending on the country, there's variations on how many guns you can take and what quantities of ammunition you can take. So you've got to know. And there have been a couple of cases where people have taken stuff to the UK that they shouldn't and got pinged. So yeah, it's you've really got to know. It's got easier over the years because previously Belgium used to have to stamp your European firearms pass, and now they no longer do, and things like that.
Yeah. The firearms pass, you have to list the guns in there. So it's a fluid system. You know, if you sell something, you have to take it off.
It's a pain. And the permit in Switzerland is 150 francs, and it lasts 5 years. I
don't know what you have to do if you do change. Do you have to go up to the capo and get it?
We probably have to send it in, and
yeah,
it's an administrative burden. Effectively, well, what I would probably do if I had one, if I go somewhere, is I'll get a European firearms pass, get what I'm taking or what plausibly might want to take listed, and then probably not necessarily keep it up to date. I need to find out. Actually, I don't know whether you are obliged to keep it up to date or not.
Just get in, just staple an Excel sheet that long to it.
Yeah. Okay. Camarade.
Overall, a question for you, because it's not really my thing.
No, it's not, is it?
Do you prefer the AR-15 or AK platform?
AR-15. There you go.
Next.
For reasons. Reasons, inline recoil. For what I do, the cartridge is better. I mean, my AR, which I've briefly shown in a previous video, it's kind of set up as convertible between an IPSC iron-sighted rifle and a space gun, as in a target rifle, and 223 is just far better for both of those roles than 7.62x39. It's got a free float tube on it, can't really do that on an AK. So yeah, I mean, with matched diopters, it's a sub-minute of angle rifle, and then with some IPSC type normal iron sights on it, it's a blasting rifle, and it just does everything for me. It's far faster. AKs can't keep up with AR-15s in IPSC match, basically. So there you go.
Right, another one for you. Sam asks, what's the best commercial 303 ammunition to avoid rimlock? Is it Lee-Enfields?
I can't speak for the American manufacturers because we haven't had any. I've got some Remington cases. I wasn't entirely satisfied with them, but not for rim jam issues. I think the rims were ever so slightly narrow, had ejection problems with it, but that was years ago. So speaking for the two that are available here, which is S&B and Privy, by a country mile.
Yep.
Right. Another one for me.
It's our friend Sam again. Why so little practical IPSA shooting in Switzerland? There's a fair amount in the UK, subject to UK laws.
I don't think there's so little compared to, say, Switzerland or Germany, but it's a bit niche, and the sort of mass interest sport is the 300-metre rifle stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's really it.
Yeah, and you do see, if you talk to people on the range, there'll be quite a number that will do it amongst their shooting hobby.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
fairly expensive.
It's expensive, and I get the impression they want to keep it quiet. Not for any particular reason, it's perfectly legal but yeah, for some reason they do it, they enjoy it, and that's it.
Yeah, I want to get back into it, but I just don't have the time. But when you think that you can spend a couple of hours practically every week from spring to autumn on a 300-metre range, and all you're paying is 35, 45, 50 cents a bang, and 80 franc a year's kind of typical membership, maybe 120 if it's an expensive club, and you can do that, or you can go and shoot an IPSC match. I have no idea what the entry fees are, but not $20. And then you're paying, unless you're hand loading, you're paying the similar amount per bang, but there's going to be 100 bangs, and it adds up pretty rapidly. And hand loading, unless you're casting your own bullets, it's expensive here anyway. Yeah. There's actually very little hand loading here.
Yeah, well, judging by the second-hand market and things, there's all sorts of race guns up here and stuff. So obviously, people are using them, but yeah.
Okay, Kyle asks, we touched on this in a Facebook post. What was the standard infantryman kit in the World War II era for Swiss military? Attempted to put a uniform display together. I'm sure others would like to see. Thank you. I don't have a full kit. I've got a full set of carrying, load-bearing equipment, but this is worth one or more videos in and of itself, and I'm in contact with a reenactment association, so we might be able to do something with the full get-up, boots and socks and the works. So that will come. When? No idea. One for both of us.
What sort of maintenance do you do?
It's Jeremy, by the way.
Yeah, Jeremy. What sort of maintenance do you do for mill rifles, linseed oil on the SMLE, for example, or do you prefer some other treatment like true oil, etc.? How do you guys treat them if they will be in the safe for more than a prolonged time, months or more? I remember seeing you using wax on leather goods, and that was some good advice, not often known to the greater world.
I think we're both kind of on the same line here.
Which is probably against most law, FUD law, etc.
We're kind of minimalist.
Yeah.
We're kind of minimalist. Unless a rifle is really filthy on the outside, I think if the stock's dry, I'll rub it with linseed.
Yeah, if it obviously needs feeding,
yeah,
you do it.
If it doesn't need anything doing, I tend not to do anything. K31 rubbed it down with a bit of linseed because it was dirty, but a bit dirty is fine. That's patina. That's being careworn.
A sander has never touched our stocks.
No. As a teenager, I did that once. I lightly sanded a number 4 I had, which was, it was pretty filthy, but literally just lightly take the worst off it. One of my rifles has been sanded by someone else, not me. The official K31 stock finish, and also was used on any of the K11s or G11s that happened to be renovated or touched up in the same period. It's not an oil at all, it's shellac. It's a slightly orange shellac. So it always pains me when I see on Facebook someone saying that they've restored their K31 and it looks blonde. And I was like, it never looked. That's you've refinished it. No K31 came out of the factory looking like that. They looked orange, like your K11, because
Yeah.
that was yours was clearly renovated later, and it got the
orange.
orangey
Yeah.
shellac. And part of the reason why they apparently used shellac is that alcohol strips it off without damaging the underlying wood. So when they, if they needed anything doing to them stock-wise, they could easily strip the shellac off.
And yeah, likewise, if there's nothing needs to be done to the stock apart from light oiling, the stock stays on the gun. So no disassembly of the action from the gun.
Yeah, there's no need to take the metal out of the wood unless there's a need to take the metal out of the wood. Often you see this on the Swiss Rifles forum of, oh yeah, I got my K31 home and I took it apart and now it doesn't shoot straight. Well, probably there's a tiny little shim in there as part of the clever bedding system. They go walkies if you're not aware of it and it just falls out somehow. But I'm a great one for considering that no good can come of taking a perfectly functioning rifle out of its wood. It can only do nothing or bad. So I tend to advise people not to. And in terms of internally, again, minimalist. I've seen more rifles that have been destroyed by cleaning than by shooting. In fact, I saw a target rifle that had been so badly treated, it was a university one, the cleaning rod had cut a groove in the top of the chamber and the throat as well. You look down it with the light and it just had a groove cut into it. Someone would be going with a cleaning rod. There's no need after you fired 10 or 12 rounds to get out the brushes and the copper terminator and all of that and really go into town on it.
Yeah. The Swiss range, the cleaning corner in the Swiss range contains patches, outer mud and fett, and a rod for bronze brush and a nylon brush.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. Most Swiss people will never put anything other than outer mud and fett down their barrel, and it's not magic. It's just a molly grease. There's nothing particularly special about it. It comes in big tubs on the range.
In fact, in the instructions, especially for Stgw 57, it is forbidden to put anything else down the barrel.
Mm-hmm. So what a lot of people do, if they do anything at all, they get one of these communal rods, they have a nylon brush on it, they dip that in the outer mud and fett, they run it through the bore, and that's it. And then before shooting next time, put a patch in, just to push out the grease. Otherwise you get what's called a Fettgagel, or a Fettschuss if we're in proper German, which is when you generate a massive cloud of smoke.
Greasy cloud of smoke.
from forgetting to push it out. But honestly, what I do when I get home from the range is I get a ball snake and I put a patch and some Brunox or whatever I've got lying around on it, pull it through once, and then every few hundred rounds, I guess, or if I have any suspicion, I'll clean it properly. But I can't remember the last time I cleaned my match K31 properly, to be honest. So less than most people is the answer.
Yeah.
Oh, a long-term storage, really long-term storage. I guess I'll probably just put Asmart and Fett or something down.
Yep.
But I live at altitude. The humidity up here is minimal, so I probably wouldn't even need to even oil them.
Christian, what was the canvas sling on the number 4 only? Was the canvas sling on the number 4 only used to carry it around, or was it also used as an aid to shooting?
Musketry Regulations 1909, it's forbidden to use the sling for support when shooting, and to be honest, only the US military thought that the sling had any place in combat shooting, or at least the people who wrote the manuals and organised the training did, because I've never seen a combat photo or film of anyone using one in combat, because frankly, why would you tie yourself into the rifle in any way, even if you're just doing hasty sling, and limit your movement? You just imagine you're in a foxhole or something, or a trench, and you've got into your sling and you're there, and then suddenly something needs your attention and the attention of your rifle over there, but you're tied in. You can't just swing around easily. I think it's a very silly idea. The British in post World War II manual says that once people are at a recruit school, when they're on the range, they could use the sling for support, but they weren't allowed to during recruit school because you have to learn to shoot without it. And a little tangential anecdote: when I started learning at school, they started us on single point match slings right from the start, and I wish they hadn't, because I was absolutely dependent on it for years. I had to teach myself to shoot normally.
All right.
So yes, just carry it around basically.
Ardnor says, are modern bolt actions better or worse than classic ones?
For what? I think is the answer there. Are they more accurate? Yes, typically, all else being equal. As combat rifles, no.
Bit of a
Well, it's
non-issue.
Non-issue. You can build a much more accurate rifle on a Remy 700 action than on a Mauser 98 action or on a Lee-Enfield action or whatever military action. They're more rigid. They're heavier.
They benefit from the obvious development of machining and quality and research, etc. So
Oh, you can answer this one. If in the 1910s the British Army had a seizure, and you had to have a seizure, and decided it wanted to adopt one of those newfangled automatic pistols the Europeans were going crazy for, what gun would have been selected? The 1911, the Webley Scott. If it jams, you can at least beat someone to death with it. The Luger and the Steyr Hahn. I'm guessing the Luger might not get on the list, but what other burly man-sized guns were available for trials? Steyr Hahn in Webley 455 Auto. Yes, please.
Yes, please. Too, but I think probably the Webley and Scott would have been, if they had had this major seizure, would have been selected purely because native design was the rule of the day. You didn't go and buy Johnny Foreigner's gear.
And if you did, you bought the idea and modified it. And I was just thinking of the Lee-Enfield series there, where the action was brought in, but then it was further developed domestically to the point where people don't realise that it wasn't originally a domestic British design. It was sort of owned, but I mean, with pistols, it would have had to be a major seizure, because the cost of an automatic pistol compared to a Webley 455 revolver is massively higher for the least significant firearm on the battlefield.
And especially considering the early semi-autos, considering the marginal reliability compared to a revolver. Yeah.
You got something much cheaper that if it has to go bang, it will make 6 bangs. The Brits wanted big bores, so your magazine capacity for a reasonable sized pistol is never going to be more than 7 or 8. But then you've got the jamming issue. At least with a revolver, if it goes click, there's a chance the next one will go bang. I think that sticking with the revolver at the time, with hindsight, I think it was a sensible move. Why invest a lot of money in something that is commonly presumed to be more of a risk to its owner than to the enemy?
A couple of years later, fine, but
Luger's reliable, but it's expensive and it's firing a little cartridge. And I've not fired one of the extremely rare repro 45 Lugers, but I imagine it's a little on the lively side. I think it would have been the Webley and Scott if they were insane.
Right, next from Conrad. This name keeps on appearing.
Yeah.
Who is your favourite British general and why?
Wellington.
Why? Well, it's pretty obvious.
Smash the French. There's a silly gag that the British military are always at their most successful when allied with the Germans against the French. But no, there's a personal connection to the Duke of Wellington that is long-standing with me, but it gives too much away, so I'm sorry. I'm just going to have to leave that as a little mystery.
Right, Scotty. Any more bloke off-the-range videos in the works, like your bunker tour videos and that highlights Swiss history and culture, but aren't directly shooting related?
Yep.
When time allows. Yeah.
It's a question of time and opportunity. Motive exists.
Yeah.
It's just time and opportunity. But yes, if I can get in some more bunkers, things like that, definitely. Thinking of doing a couple of random bloke off the range videos that I'll put on the bloke off the range channel, which is kind of there's not much on there aside from a few skiing videos at the moment, but a few things like how to make tea the proper way. You're not British unless you can argue about how to make tea properly. Right.
Scotty again.
Aha. Okay, you've mentioned previously needing an exemption permit to own a machine gun. What does Swiss law require in regard to disabling fully automatic guns such as the Stgw 57 or 90 so an exemption permit is not required to own the gun? Are permanent modifications to prevent installation of an auto-seal required, or is it simply removed and as long as you don't put it back in you're okay? The answer is the only guns that are exempt from an exemption permit that are Downconversions are the Stgw 57 and 90s. Anything else still remains legally a machine gun, and you still need an exemption permit for it. They grind off all the bits on the bolt that work with an auto-sear, so it's not just a...
You can't just drop that in and then you're good to go.
No. Yeah, they're quite certain that you need to be a gunsmith to reconvert them, but frankly a gunsmith can make something from scratch anyway, so that's fair enough. TKB 29671, your parents must have hated you. Broadly speaking, the notable examples of military straight-pull bolt-action infantry rifles are very limited, with the Swiss, Austro-Hungarians and Canadians being the three big examples. What caused these strikingly different armed forces to choose a straight-pull rifle rather than a turnbolt design? Why did they make different decisions to everyone else? So if we start with the Swiss, thinking back to the trials rifles mentioned in the definitive book on the topic, most of them are even more Rube Goldberg than the...
Oh yeah.
I mean,
proper steampunk.
Yeah, you gotta remember that at the era, turnbolt usually meant sticky out bolt handle going... And I'm deliberately doing this in front of my face with the camera because this is the often forgotten problem that you're obscuring what you're shooting at, which slows it down. And I think a lot of the time the infantry doctrine, as we're discussing with the Labelle, with the question of these tests, and they were specifying they were shouldering for each shot, which meaning that they're taking it out the shoulder. And sure, if you're firing standing up, mostly, or kneeling, and you're taking the rifle out the shoulder to work the bolt, then possibly even a straight bolt handle is better. You've got more leverage, it's possibly easier to operate. But if you want to do any kind of rapid fire, you need to keep the rifle up. And aside from a few turn down bolts of the era, like the Remington Lees, the various Lee-Enfields, some of the Krags, most are sticky out. The alternative is a straight pull. And I think that possibly came into it was, ooh, if we do this we can actually go pretty quick. Now, Canadians is definitely homegrown shenanigans. The Austro-Hungarians, you've got ÖVG, had various turnbolt designs and a straight pull, and I honestly don't know enough about the Austro-Hungarians and the history as to why they wanted the straight pull, whether it was doctrinal, they wanted to go fast.
Which was a continuation after the 1886. Yeah,
I mean they started with a straight pull before ÖVG had a turnbolt, actually, thinking about it, because they had the 1886 and ÖVG's first turnbolt was later. Was it not?
Yeah.
So
at least I don't know about the experimentals, but
because they're all based on the commission rifle 1888.
Yeah.
I mean it's possibly that they just started with a straight pull prior and said we like this, and it's easier for training to stick with the same principle. So I suspected they started and then they had a succession. Watch Cian Arsenal's video on the massive succession, new rifle every couple of years, or new design every couple of years. It's easier for training, particularly ill-educated troops, unmotivated conscripts.
Lots of those.
Mm-hmm.
From Kyle, what is your dream weapon?
Yours?
Mine? Dream to own or ultimate dream weapon? I don't really have one, to be honest. I like all the old stuff, so...
Which is mostly available.
Yeah.
Unless you're into weird prototypes. For me, EM2 or a Johnson. Okay. Next one. Jake asks, is it true that speeding tickets can deny your gun rights in Switzerland? In certain manner. Switzerland is slightly odd in that they have a very sliding scale of speeding offences, and they become criminal at a lower level to other countries, should we say. And there was a bit of uproar in the press of some German guy racing through Switzerland and being stopped by the police. They had to shut down the Gotthard tunnel to stop him because he was racing at insane speeds, and he's going to jail. He's going to have to be extradited, but he's going to jail for that. Whereas in a lot of countries it would be a massive fine and losing your license for a certain period, whereas in Switzerland it would be massive. But anyway, there's various traffic offences that count as criminal. And the rule is that anything where you get more than an administrative fine, and there's a distinction between an administrative fine and a fine that's gone through a court, as a fine as punishment. So you've got Buße, which is an administrative fine, and you've got Geldstrafe, which is a court-imposed financial punishment. Those go on your criminal record declaration. And if you've got 2 entries on your criminal record declaration in a 10-year period, your firearms rights are taken away. If you've got 1 violence or firearms abuse related issue, then you're done till that's spent, and it takes 10 years for a conviction to be spent. But 2 serious red lights or 2 serious speeding tickets, or combination thereof in a 10-year period, yeah.
But broadly, that's for any offence.
Yeah.
Not just speeding car driving offences, so any other theft or I don't know what.
Yeah, but yeah, anything violence or abuse of firearms will lose you it straight away. Green Ruin asks, why did the Swiss go for machine parts over stamping with the MG51? From my understanding, it was heavily influenced by the MG42, but goes for machine components, removing one of the key developments of the MG42. Were the numbers just not high enough to justify the stamping dies? In a more general question, the Swiss are known for well-machined, kind of out there small arms, particularly in the early 20th century, and sort of coming to a close with the Stgw 90, which is so conventional it comes across about as interesting as Piers Morgan. Why was this in the first place, and what caused the shift to Sensibleville? I'll start with the MG51. Because they can.
Yep.
I can't remember the price of an MG51, but it's insane. It was like the design wanted it made properly. MG42 is a production engineered design for quick, cheap, wartime mass production. MG51 is peacetime for a small army that valued that. I mean, MG42 is practically disposable in machine gun terms, which is what they needed at the time. So we like how this operates, but we want it made properly. We can't possibly be making nasty
Stampy things,
wriggly tin. So the only stampy thing is the barrel jacket, which is then welded onto a fully machined piece, and instead of rollers, it's got flaps. It works the same way. It's the camming system that cams the rollers in when the barrel slides backwards. That's kept, but they're flaps instead of rollers. Just so you know. And they're super heavy. They're crazy, and they've got a nasty floppy bipod on them. And the MG42 bipod is nasty and floppy as it is. But apparently the reason is shooting up and down hill at extreme ranges at extreme angles, put certain constraints on the bipod, which meant that a sort of Bren type or FN mag type better bipod was considered inferior, so they pretty much copied the one off the LMG25. Now, as for Sillyville designs, well, the straight pull series aren't that silly once you understand where Schmidt was coming from, which is basically, our contention is that the 1889 is a straight polarised Vetterli, and once you're starting from there, it's not actually that crazy. K31 is refined. Same principle. I think possibly the reputation for silliness comes from Herr Führer.
The SMGs and...
Herr Führer and his toggle lock obsession. So you've got the LMG25, which is a Luger turned on its side in 7.5 Swiss, practically. MP41 and 41/44, which is a Luger turned on its side.
Yep.
First in 7.65 Para and second in 9mm, made as a submachine gun. He also made toggle lock anti-aircraft guns.
Yep.
What was the biggest one? Some artillery.
Yeah, there's a big artillery grenade. I can't remember what caliber it is, but something stupendously large.
Furrer liked his toggles. So, yeah, anything he could make with a toggle did, and the reputation for quality, the obsession with quality, homegrown designs. I think that's what it is. It's Furrer. And then the Stgw 57, we're still in the early period of development. I mean, now we know what a full power battle rifle looks like and feels like and smells like and sounds like, and it's more like a Fowler or a G3, but they're coming at it from a slightly different perspective. Again, it's homegrown, and it's a defensive type rifle more over than an assault type rifle. It's sort of something that the majority of troops are going to carry to a post, adopt a position, stay there until their ammo runs out, they're overrun, they're killed, or they're told to do something else. And it's a heavy rifle / light machine gun. And I've not had the pleasure yet of firing one full auto off a bipod, which I want to do. I've seen them fired full auto off a bipod, and it's, to be honest, given its weight, it's remarkably stable. And certainly in propaganda films from the 60s, where they were firing live in some of these things, like Wehrhafte Schweiz, and there's a couple of others, Kampf der Infanterie and all of that. They're giving it loads and it's pushing back, but it's not far off. I think they were thinking about it as we'll have a bit more weight and we'll have it as a force multiplier, because you can use these as light machine guns practically. Sensibleville, I think possibly by the 90s, everyone knows what a rifle's meant to look like by that point.
Yeah.
And
budgets are what they used to be as well.
Oh yeah, the price per Stgw 57, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I remember converting it via purchasing power parity and exchange rates into US dollars, and it was over 30,000 US dollars in today's money per rifle. It was either 1,000 or 3,000 francs in 1960, which is insane. But they could, so they did. Sam asks, have you considered comparing other old uniforms, British battle dress on skis, given it was based on a 30s ski suit? Yeah. Time and money, and yes, I would really like to try battle dress on skis. In fact, I'd like to try full 37 pattern gear on skis. Something I just need to get around to do, and attributing some budget for. Yeah.
Right. Robert, can you please tell me why people think the Mauser 8x57mm round is over-engineered?
It's not really over-engineered, it's just a cartridge. It's massively overpowerful for a shoulder rifle. Massively. 197-ish grains at 2,500 feet per second is gigantic. It is just, all of the full power rifle cartridges are overpowered for a shoulder fired rifle. It's just that is really on the top end, and yeah, it's not a joke that in a light rifle like a Kar 98K, it's not actually that pleasant to fire. And particularly the commercial S&B is really, really chunky stuff. You don't need a round like that to miss someone at 200 yards with. You really don't. You can miss them with something much easier to shoot and maybe not miss them.
On a lighter note, Sam asks, what's the penalty for dropping your bread in fondue? Mostly I remember being thrown in a lake with weights tied to your feet from Asterix.
That's how drunk you are.
Yeah, it depends how drunk you are. It depends if the kids are still around.
Knock yourself out.
Yeah.
Officially, there's nothing. Now, traditionally, there's ladies giving a kiss or a man having to buy a bottle of wine.
Something very sensible.
Very, very sensible and staid, but you knock yourselves out. Okay, Tim asks, as a Canadian Lee-Enfield owner, I've been finding charges to be near unobtainium, short of paying around $10 a piece at a gun show. The same goes for K31 charges, but I found files to 3D print them and was wondering if there's any real reason why it might not be worth time and filament. Can we expect a detailed video on 3D printed charges, possibly even a mad minute video where 3D printed charges are used instead of metal ones? yeah, if someone sends us them, we'll do it.
Yeah, give it a try.
Give it a try. Any reason why not? Are they strong enough? Don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not.
If there's any significant spring force required, will it hold repeatedly?
Recently seen someone with a 3D printed Schmidt Rubin charger. Yeah, why not? Not sure the Lee-Enfield ones will work. I'm not sure you won't have a room to put enough plastic in. I'm not sure it's springy enough. If you want to know what a not springy enough rimmed ammo charger works like, there's Mosin's. It's awful. The British chargers are far better. Final one. Scotty asks, why does his nibs here shoot rifles as a right-hander but shoot pistols left-handed?
Right. Well, traditionally I was doing everything left-handed, and I was only shooting pistol. Then when I got into rifle, I just got annoyed trying to work bolt actions left-handed. So I just taught myself to use them right-handed, and certainly for a rifle it's far less hassle. You're well supported. You're shooting prone or kneeling or etc. There's really not an issue, and it's so much more convenient. For that reason, I kept up left-handed with the pistol because there's no issues with ejection, whether it's right or left or up or. However, now I'm having issues with my left eye, and I'm seriously considering switching to right hand. So I'm practicing indoor with air guns and things like that just to see. Certainly in terms of stability of the hand, there's no difference. So far in the score, there's also no difference. So I have to see what that comes out with full bore stuff. But yeah, it's at the moment a fluid situation.
So where'd he go? Oh, anyway, yeah, sorry, we actually lost the end of the video there. It was unusable, so I'm having to sign off later. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for the patrons for their questions and for their support. If you haven't already become a patron, please consider doing so. It really helps us to keep producing videos, and see you again sometime. Bye.